Thank you. You guys are amazing. Thank you very much. It is my joy to stand before you today and celebrate our birthday. 20 years ago, I was not 20 when I started this. I wasn't 0 when I started this. As a matter of fact, I wish I'd started it when I was 20. But it's our birthday party, and it's a rare thing. So it's our birthday, and what we're going to do is give you a birthday present. Fair enough? And here you go. And if you haven't received your Suncoast shirt, you can pick it up at the end. We have all sizes available for you, kids sizes as well. Some of you are already wearing them. I like to see them. They're scattered throughout the auditorium. But get your shirt. It's our gift to you. And also, we have other gifts for you today. There are donut holes. Yeah, something not so new. Anyway, but you know, the beverages we give you every week. But thank you so much for being a part of that. It's been a great history. I want to remind you some things before I jump into the history of Suncoast and tell you what's happening at Suncoast. Friday evening, this coming Friday, is our last children's event of the summer. It's not a children's event, it's a family event. If you want to go to the movies, come here. They're showing all these different movies. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, a lot of movies, 8 or 9 movies. So if you want to come, and some of them are only 10 minutes long. So wives, you know your husband's attention span. Maybe that's one you need to see. But kids will be moving in and out of the movies, and it'll be a great time to see those. That's on Friday evening. You see it's in your hand. You can find the details about that. Other things are on the back of the worship notes, and I want to point out a couple things. One is the backpacks. You saw them out in the Grand Hall. These are backpacks for children who are foster kids who really don't have anything, and really when they have a backpack, they really own it. No matter if they go from home to home, this is their backpack. It belongs to them. And we provide this every year as a resource to those kids. So if you'd want to donate those, we appreciate your help in that. Some people, you can give Susan money and she'll order the backpacks for you. You can go to Target or Walmart or those places, or you can order them online and have them shipped to the office. But we appreciate your supporting that as well. A couple things, oil changes, anyone needs that on this coming weekend, Israel trip, other things are right there in your notes. But today we're going to start with a scripture found in Joshua. And let me tell you what Joshua's about. Joshua was Moses' right-hand guy. Moses was gone. It was Joshua's responsibility to lead the children of Israel across the Jordan River and into the Promised Land. And he had to do that. He was the leader. And as we read this, I want you to keep that in mind because there's a lot of application for our life as we look at this together. Just one sheet of scripture, just these few verses. So when the people broke camp to cross the Jordan, the priest carrying the Ark of the Covenant went ahead of them. Now the Jordan is at flood stage all during harvest, yet as soon as the priest who carried the Ark reached the Jordan and their feet touched the water's edge, the water from upstream stopped flowing. And so much security in the camp. But you take your clergy, your pastors, guys like me, you say, look, you carry the Ark of the Covenant, and if you say we need to walk through on dry ground, you walk first. And if you don't drown, maybe we'll try it. Sound reasonable? And that's a story of what it takes. In 1997 was a year of prayer and reflection in my life. I pledged myself to an hour a day spending time with God. And for those of you who've spent a lot of time with God and you've done some time of reflection, an hour a day for me was a lot. It's not just an hour a day, but an hour a day for a year. 365 consecutive days. I didn't miss a day. On vacation, didn't matter what. I spent an hour of prayerful reflection, listening, sometimes reading, but praying, wanting God to guide my life. Now, you'd think at the end of 1997, after a pastor had prayed 365 hours, he'd be a better pastor, wouldn't you? Well, I finished that on January 1st, 1998. I resigned the pastorate January 5th. You go, well, that just doesn't seem right. But I realized my journey was taking me in a different path. I realized I was supposed to leave this place where I'd been. I was not happy there. I was frustrated with the circumstances of organization that I was in. And it seemed like I need to get over it. And when I did that, it's amazing. It led not only to my resignation, but for some new changes for my life that would happen forever. So in your notes today, I'm going to give you three thoughts. And here's the first one. New things can happen when we release our security. Just like they were on the riverbank and camps, everything's good. Now you got to go step in the water. That's a risk that you have to take. I resigned for January 5th. I didn't just quit my job and change jobs. I had spent my whole life since I was a teenager studying for this career, and I quit my career. It'd be equivalent of a doctor going to, okay, I want to go to school, pre-med, then you go to school for med school, and then after that you do an internship, and then after the internship you practice. And I'd gone through 4 years of college, 4 years of graduate school, and 7 years in the PhD program, and I'd pastored for 17 years. And one day I go, I just don't want to do that anymore. It was a big career decision, but I needed to release that security because I felt like that I was moving in a different direction, and I did, and I'm grateful I did. God had given me a promise during this time, just keep me first in your life, and I will bless whatever you touch. Meanwhile, what I was touching, I moved into sales, and I was selling mobile homes. Is mobile homes trailers? I was the only PhD mobile home salesman in the state of Florida. It's a claim to fame. You say, well, how'd that work for you? I don't know, but my cousin who owned the business, he said, it's unbelievable. I took deposits on 50 mobile homes. That's like selling 50 houses in 4 months. If you're a realtor, you know that's pretty good, pretty good income coming in. My family and I began to church shop. We attended several churches in the Tallahassee area. One where the music was great, we loved it, but the pastor, the preaching just was terrible. That's the way it was. Another where the teaching was great, but the music sucked. It was just so bad. I mean, Easter of 1998, I went to 2 churches that day. And I was just like, 2 churches, I can barely go to one. And I went to 2 churches that day, and I went home that afternoon. I was so frustrated. I thought, I'm not being fed. What am I going to do? This is not working for me. I don't feel fulfilled. I'm making all kinds of money, but it's not where my heart is. And in that time, I kind of have a little bit of a God encounter, kind of an emotional meltdown. And God began to ask me to partner with him, to trust him. And at that point, I began to have this idea, well, what if we start a baby church, a new church? And I went and talked to Becky about it. And she said, I'm good. I'm all in. Where? And after prayer and searching, we felt we'd move back to Sarasota. So we began to ask the question, what kind of church would it be? First thing, we built Suncoast on 3 C's. If you've been around a long time, 3 C's. We haven't mentioned that lately, but casual dress. I was so sick of wearing a tie. I just wasn't going to wear a tie. I said, I'm starting a church. I'm going to start a church that has no ties. Okay? Casual dress. I mean, it was automatically people got excited. Contemporary music. I didn't want to sing the old hymns. I grew up with that. And folks, if you love that, it's okay. But we're not going to do a blend. We're going to do only contemporary music. And you say, well, I like the songs we sang 10 years ago. Guess what? They're 10 years old. They're not contemporary. So contemporary music is, you're always changing your music. You're always bringing in new music in. And most importantly, Christ-centered teaching. So casual dress, contemporary music, Christ-centered teaching. We were not a Bible-centered church. We were not a Spirit-centered church. We're a Jesus-centered church. We believe in the Spirit of Jesus. We believe in the Bible, what it teaches. But Jesus is the focus of everything and brings light to both those other things. So a church that would reach out to young families. A church that would focus on children. A church that was visitor sensitive. A church that didn't look like church. Wouldn't you like to go to church that wasn't like church? That's what I was looking for. What did we call it? A friend of mine came with the idea, how about Suncoast? I said, yeah, Suncoast Community Church. That sounds great. In the first service we had 47 people in attendance. And I will tell you, in the last 20 years, it's not been this trajectory like this. It's been the biggest roller coaster you can imagine. My grandson went to Busch Gardens last week in middle school. He said, went on the roller coaster. You like them? Oh, I love them. I said, you pay to go on those? Yes. I said, I live on a roller coaster. I mean, that's just the way life is. And come to think of it, you do too. No one lives on the easy keel all the time. If you do, it's boring. Life is not meant to be static. It's dynamic. It has highs and lows. It has emotional interplay that happens within life. That's just part of life. Sometimes you're happy. Sometimes you're not so happy. I mean, and for us, great times, life is good. And then there'd be times of uncertainty. There was times I go, I just really don't know how this is going to work. It's going to work. I just don't know how it's going to work. So we started 20 years ago. We met, first of all, in McIntosh Middle School. And we were only there for about 90 days. And then went to Fruitville Elementary and then to Sarasota Middle School and then here. But if you were part of that first 90-day crowd, first group at McIntosh Middle, would you stand? I want to honor you today. Just stand. Look at that. There's one. Stay standing. The others, I see standing. The others seem like they came to other churches. They came to other services. They've been here all weekend. You're just the only heathen that stayed around 10:30. It's a good friend. If you came during the Fruitville Elementary time, would you stand? Just curious. If you're there during, remember the Fruitville Elementary? Some people were standing around. Okay. If you were here during Sarasota Middle School, would you stand during those times? We were there for 7 years. Now, if you're here today, would you stand? I want everybody to stand. Now, just look around for a second. You're making history. You are just as much a part of Suncoast as those who were Matthew Hill was 20 years ago. And I want you to know you're included. And as we write the future, you're a part of the future. You'll be a part of what happens in the next 5 years or 10 years or 15 or 20 years. But thank you very much. You may be seated. So those are good things. You know, amazing things begin to happen in my spiritual life when I say, God, I need to rely on you as my security and not me. So I was being taught two things. One was I was getting myself in a place of surrender to release all the things I thought were important, because when I carried those things, I couldn't carry the things that God wanted me to. So I emptied my hands and then opened my hands for what he wanted to give me. And what he wanted to give me is to grasp something new. The concept of what the church could be. A community. At first, there were no hired staff. For the first 2 years, I didn't get a salary because there was not enough money. We were just barely paying the bills. But I want to bring out some people who made a huge investment in this, and I'd like to invite them to the front this time. And they're coming in. If you don't recognize them, I'll introduce you to them in just a moment. This is my family. Becky and I have been married for 42 years. This is our firstborn, Laura, our secondborn, Stacy, and our thirdborn, Ryan. And they've been involved in Suncoast since its very inception. They did so many different things. Folks, I want you to know that I could not have done it without these family members. It wasn't just me launching a church, but I had Becky doing children's ministry. I had musicians. You ever heard these people play music? Yes. They're fantastic and so creative. But I just want to publicly thank you guys for standing by us and being a part of our family. We couldn't do it without you. We're glad you're here. Aren't they great? Now I'm going to do something that I don't normally do. Here's the mic, sweetie.
And he knows that I don't normally ask for the mic. This is not my thing. But anyway, a couple of things I just felt like I wanted to share this morning on this occasion. And the first one is that we've been married 42 years, and Larry's still the love of my life. And I appreciate the opportunity to go on this ride with you. And I'm looking forward to the next 20.
She's not fond of roller coasters, by the way.
No, I'm not. I had the privilege of being the first children's director or children's leader as we started Suncoast. And working with children has always been a passion in my life. And I've really enjoyed through the years getting to see the kids grow up. Now some of them have their kids coming to Suncoast Kids. And also just a host of volunteers that were just so great to work with. We've been through we've had many Easter egg hunts, summer fun days, vacation Bible schools, fall family festivals, Christmas programs, and so much more. And it's just been a wonderful time to get to know the kids and the parents and the volunteers in such a great way. One of the other things that was kind of a staple for us as far as when we first started Suncoast, well, even before that, but names were a real thing for Larry. He felt like people's names were important, and he worked very hard at remembering people's names. And probably some of you sitting out there remember the fact that probably the second time you came, he probably knew your name. And so many times over the years, I've heard people say, I just can't believe he knew my name the second time I came. And but it was something important to him, and he does a great job with that. I don't do so good with that, but he has, over the years, that's been a real fun thing to hear people's response to that. Another thing that we did early on that you might not be aware of is because we rented in a school, we had no space during the week as far as for band practice or activities or whatever. So that became our home. Our home became a cluster of activities in the evenings, things that we had band practice on Thursday nights and life group on whatever night. And so our home became that extra space that we needed to actually do other activities outside of the weekend. And I look back on that with fond memories because that was really fun. Another thing that Larry did was early on, he sent letters out to everybody weekly. Everybody got a letter every week. And that became a bit of a challenge once we grew to, about 300? But in order to get those letters out, he typed them, printed them, and then we all folded, stuffed, and stamped them. And so it was quite the process at home. Oh, it's time to do this again. Oh, no. Well, yeah, we got to do it again. So that was always a fun thing. In the course of about a year or so into Suncoast, we started renting a facility, office space, over on the corner of Palmer and Cattleman. And so that became our activity center. And at that point, then things kind of shifted over there, and that became a hub of all sorts of activities for youth and children and small groups and you name it. Everything was happening over there. So those are just some fun facts of the early days at Suncoast, and I find it a privilege to be able to be a part of all that.
Thanks, Lee. And she's an amazing woman, because can you imagine your husband saying, I'm quitting my career, and I'm going to something else, and we're going to move a long way away, and we're going to live in a different place, and then later on to come back and say, no, I think we're going to move another place, and we're going to move there hundreds of miles away and start something new. But this is my wife. She's all in. When I say, this is where I feel like God is leading me, she's like, I'm there. And there never was a question about that. Now, she questioned me on lots of other things, but not about that. And I'm grateful for that. And it's been a wonderful 42 years, and I love her dearly. But she was an integral part. She did children's ministry. We were about kids. The kids were musicians. I mean, Laura was playing in the band, and Stacy played keyboard after Laura was gone to college, and then Ryan played. But it's interesting, all of my kids left here to go to college other places. Guess what? They could have never returned. They all came back here. They all landed back here. They all are part of our Suncoast family because it's part of their lives, and it's a part of who we are as a community. I think that's a good thing. I want to say a shout out to those who may not be here today. Glenn and Sarah Sunderhouse, you're watching this, Stephen Sue Marcinko, Roger and Jeanette Blitz, Mitch Burks, I know you're traveling, but Greg Greiner was here last night, but he's one of my board of directors, and Kevin Hawk, another one, and Mike Ross. I say thank you to these people who've been so gracious, and in those early days, without their support, we could not have made it. Now I want to give kudos to some other people. Susan Hickman, who's out there at the backpack area and does the Suncoast tour. Susan Hickman has started part-time, then full-time. She's worked for me 18 years. Sherry Connor, 15 years, and Kevin Kaiser, 14 years. Now, those three people, and Susan and Sherry, they basically run this place. I'm just grateful every now and then I come in and I say, am I still in charge? And they let me say yes or no. But they're wonderful ladies, and if you've worked with them, I'm telling you, they are fantastic. But working with these people over many, many years, it's a wonderful opportunity to see how the community can grow. And in the first 5 years of Suncoast, I've just worked 5 years, and I felt like it was my responsibility to take some time off. And so I decided to take 40 days off. Now, my cousin, who's like my brother, just can't get over the fact that I could take 40 days off. Oh, I wish I had a job. You pastors, you can do whatever you want. It's just a cush job. You just take whatever time, and the abuse is there. And you know who you are. You do the same thing to me. It's okay. But here's what's amazing, is that sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees. And if you work in an environment that every day you got to go to work, every day you got to do the same thing, how do you know where your life is going if you don't pull back and reflect and set a trajectory on where you want to be? And that's what I needed to do at that time. And I came back after 40 days by myself, wandering around the southeast, going to different national forests and things. But I came back with this statement: it's time to buy land. And it was. Which leads me to number 2. When we expect great things to happen, they usually do. Sometimes we get caught up in the mundane, and we could have been in the school for 20 years. But after that 5 years, I came back. It's time to buy land, and now it was time to find land. We wanted to purchase land close to the interstate. I wanted over 40 acres, 40 plus. And I met many people, but I met with a guy by the name of Arlen Hawkins. He's the guy that owned the property that we're on now, 121 acres. And Arlen basically, I met him one day, and we talked about the land, and I came back the next day with an offer. And this is not the way usually multi-million-dollar deals are worked. But he's a southern guy, and so am I. And we sat there on his couch, and we argued like two people over a flashlight price at a garage sale. And he said, well, this is what I want. I said, well, this is what I want to give you. How about this? No, that doesn't work for me. How about this? No, that doesn't work for me. Well, how about... And finally he said, look, the bottom line is $3.8 million is the lowest I'm going to take for 121 acres. I said, okay, I'll take it. But I need 6 months to close. He said, that's fine. I need that much time myself. And he said, what's the down payment going to be? Usually 10%. I go, no. We don't have that kind of money. All we had was $25,000 in the bank. I said, I tell you what we want to give you is $25,000 down on a $3.8 million deal. I said, but if we don't close in 6 months, you keep the money, like it was a big deal. He said, okay. And we had the land under contract. I can tell you, getting land under contract is a great thing, but it does not solve all your issues. That was just the beginning of what had needed to happen. But God was working, which leads me to the third point I want to talk to you about today. The river does not part until our foot hits the water's edge. You know, it really doesn't happen until you get into it. Well, we were in the river, and we're waiting for it to part. The zoning laws were changing. We had to feverishly go to the zoning department and rezone and do some plans and street realignments, all the things we had to do. But by September, we had that done, even though we didn't own the property. We spent a lot of money on it, but we still had to close on the property. We got someone to buy 40 acres from us for $2 million. And we had a simultaneous closing. We went in to close on the 121 acres, and at the same time, we sold the 40 acres. We sold the 40 acres for $2 million. We had 81 acres for $1.8 million. For those of you math people, that's a pretty good deal. The bank said we made $756,000 in profit in the few seconds that we had between we signed this document and the next, and that was our down payment. And that's a pretty good deal. So we felt really great about that. We came out here on the property, and we set it up about where we thought this building was going to be, about where I am right now. And people were out there. We had a big tent out here, and there was coffee and hot chocolate. It was a cool November morning, November 30. Sunny skies. The band had stage, and they just played and did a great job. And I get to stand up, and I'm talking about Joshua possessing the land. I still remember it like it was yesterday. And one of the pastors looked up. He was pointing to the sky. I looked up at the sky. And right above us in that moment, talking about God giving us the land, this land for us, this big cross, perfect cross, right above us in the sky. Some people just started weeping. I'm not a mystical guy who cries about those things. But even me, I went, wow. It was just as if God was saying, well done. I'm going to bless what you do. No matter what you touch, I'll bless it. We began to dream about the future. One of those dreams included a school, which I started a charter school during those times. So charter school is a public school run by a private board. We petitioned the county. We got a school going. And in February 2007, we worked through all the details of that, but we were able to have the school and Suncoast Community Church on this land, in this building. We launched a new day. I mean, the next morning during this time, it seems like funds were getting a little bit low. And, it seems like when you're in the trenches and you're looking for more, there's a challenge. And Becky and I went to our house during this time, and we had to come up with some more money. Even though the school was approved and the money ran out between the time that we were in construction and we got here. And we went out and borrowed a large sum of money on our house. And when I borrowed the money, I didn't know at that time what it would mean if we just didn't make the payment, or if everything went under. And in hindsight, I look back and realize, when you're all in, you're all in. When you're all in, if it goes under, you're under. But if you're not all in, then what's the point? And we were in the water. We were walking into it, and the water was parting, and we were grateful. But in that moment, I got this wonderful call from the principal saying, you're all in. The church is doing well. We found out the charter school can be on the property. Now the rent check is going to come in. Your financial issues are not going to be nearly as what you thought they were going to be. God seemed to take care of those issues for me. I walked out behind my house at 3 o'clock in the morning. And in that 3 o'clock event, I tell people I bumped into Jesus on the sidewalk between my house and the barn, which was my study. And it really, figuratively, it was just this overwhelming reality that God was with me. And I remember the Casting Crowns song, Voice of Truth. Listen to the words. Oh, what I would do to have the kind of faith it takes to climb out of this boat I'm in onto the crashing waves. To step out of my comfort zone into the realm of the unknown where Jesus is, and he's holding out his hand. But the waves are calling out my name, and they laugh at me, reminding me of all the times I've tried before and failed. The waves, they keep telling me time and time again, boy, you'll never win. You'll never win. But the voice of truth tells me a different story. The voice of truth says, do not be afraid. The voice of truth says, this is for my glory. And of all the voices calling out to me, I will choose to listen and believe the voice of truth. Folks, in that moment, I believed the presence of God was with me. And I knew Suncoast was going to be fine. 2008, life was good. Man, we were growing. 2007, the school and church were combined. Everything's great. Remember the roller coaster? 2008, what happened to our economy? Man, it just took a hit. People's businesses suffered. I had good friends that went under because they were overextending their business, or they were told something by the bank that didn't come true. We were damaged significantly by the 2008 situation. Our interest rate was not what it should have been, and our payments went out of control. I actually went under behind the scenes and battled banks and other financial things for 5 or 6 years till we got it resolved. But in 2014, life is good again. All of a sudden, that bank is over, the money's there, everything looks good. We start looking for new staff. And in 2016, we went to Israel. Life is good. And 2016, we tried to pull the team together. And some wanted to debate theology, and maybe I'm guilty of that too. But in that process, some did not think we were teaching what we should be teaching, and many people left our congregation. You know, I didn't know what to do, honestly. I want to stand up and defend it, yet I didn't want to do it either. But now, later on, I finally got the resolve. Our resolve is we will not spend time defending our theology. Let the people see our theology the way we love our community. Because if you can believe whatever you want and it's not translated into actions, and your belief is not really belief at all. What we believe we're a community. We're not a denomination. We don't teach doctrine. We're not going to be political. It's not about Republicans or Democrats. We want to be the arms and hands of Jesus to our community. In our season of we lost some attendance and we lost some staff, we decided to love God more deeply, and we doubled down on what we do. So we went from a twice-a-year oil change to an every-month oil change. Instead of giving away a few cars, we gave away 20 cars that year and 20 cars the next year. At this point, we've given away 18 cars. So you're giving away a lot of cars. We simply want to make a difference in our community. This year, we've given away $3,000 in a rise against hunger. We've supported Lifehouse Counseling, Mothers Helping Mothers, Big Brothers Big Sisters, Safe Child Coalition, Blaze of Hope, Kona Health, Suncoast Academy, and the Empowerment Fund. We are changing the image of church back to the image of community. That's what it was in Jesus' day. We are Suncoast. We're not a place where we want to debate things. We want to love people deeply. We're a hospital, not a courtroom. We want to encourage you to take personal responsibility for your life, but also give back because you've been blessed. We proclaim the love of God as taught by Jesus. Remember Jesus? We follow him. What about the next 20 years? Roller coaster, here we go. Another 20 years. What's it going to look like? Well, how about an assisted living facility? Wow. How about Suncoast Community College? What about another school building for the charter school? There are more things coming. Life is meant to be dynamic, not static. There's going to be highs and lows. Hang on. Let's enjoy the ride. At Suncoast, we're a community. We've learned to trust God and follow the teachings of Jesus. Can I pray for you? Father, thanks for your goodness and grace. Thanks for the challenge today. Thank you for reminding us of our past, because when we realize you were with us then, when we look to the future, we know you're going to be with us there. Thank you for your goodness and grace. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Would you stand, please? I'm going to tell you a quick closing story. And if you want to pray at the end of the service, there's someone up front who'd be delighted to pray with you. But on May 10th, 2017, my friend Walt Rogel passed away. Many of you knew Walt. He was a guy who loved fast cars and fast motorcycles. And with just those two characteristics, he and I had great common ground to love and become friends. I found out through becoming a friend with Walt that his mom and dad had passed away. He was an only child. He had no wife, no kids, no relatives at all. He was a lone individual in the world, and Suncoast really became his family. We found out in his last years that he had liver disease and heart disease. He deteriorated quickly. And long before he died, he heard he had a year to live, and he lived 2. I remember praying for Walt, and this is a Suncoast prayer. As it develops, I prayed for Walt. I prayed that God would heal him. Just heal him, God. You can do it. And I remember God kicking back to me in my reflection, saying, you can pray better than that. It's okay. God, wrap your arms around him where he is and comfort him. That's a good prayer. And God kicked back, you can do better than that. Okay, God, would you go where he is and let you be God, and you do whatever you think is good. You just go where he is and do whatever you want. Well, that's a good prayer. God seemed to kick back to me. And this is what he kicked back. How about this prayer? Larry, I want you to wrap your arms around Walt and let him sense you being there. Use your resources. I want him to see me through you. We took care of Walt. We housed him. We took him to the doctor for over 2 years every week. Until he passed away, we were the caregivers for Walt. Why? Because that's what Suncoast Community is. It's a community. We love people from birth till death. We proclaim the love of Jesus by the way we treat people in our community. I'm just here to say thanks for being a part of us. God loves you today, and so do I. God bless.